Good morning, and I'd like to call the Committee of Adjustment meeting to order at 9:04. And we have all of our members here, two on Zoom, and the rest are here. And the first order is the adoption of the agenda. Moved by Member Stokes, second by Member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment agenda dated November 13th, 2020 be adopted. All those in favor? That's carried. And it's not working. Give a thanks. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Saying none. Moved by Member Quinn, second by Member Brown. Be it resolved the Committee of Adjustment minutes dated October 10th, 2023 be adopted and approved as circulated. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. And Chelsea?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is required that I make a few statements, then I will explain the hearing procedures. This electronic hearing is being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The members of the Committee of Adjustment present are Alan Edwards, Barb Bridgman, Ruth Ann Brown, Lisa Grogan Green, Joe Quinn, and Sean Stokes. I can confirm we have quorum. I can also confirm that senior staff and planning staff are present. Public input on this November 13th agenda was invited at the following email address, planning@muskokalakes.ca. Now I will explain the hearing process. The planner will provide an explanation and purpose of the application, the date the notice was circulated, and planning staff's comments. All internal and external submissions have been provided to committee members by Friday, November 10th, 2023. The planner will present any submissions received after this date. The committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent if they wish to add any information or to substantiate their proposal. Please provide your name and mailing address and postal code for our records. The committee will hear from those in support of the application and those in opposition to the application. Again, please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise permitted by the committee. If you are here to speak on an application, please wait to raise your hand in Zoom until the planner presents the relevant application. The committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent to respond to any questions or concerns raised. The committee will then have the opportunity to ask questions. The committee will debate the application and make a decision based on the information presented at the hearing. Please note that the effect of written and oral submissions on decisions for consent and minor variances and the reasons for minor variance decisions are both required under the Planning Act, and motions are pre-populated with standard wording. However, the committee may decide to add reasons and/or effects to the standard wording after voting on a decision. Motions have also been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting. The motions are automatically written in the positive to assist in completing decisions as opposed to writing out each resolution. This does not in any way mean an application is going to be approved. When it is time to vote, members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded. This is not considered a recorded vote. It must be noted that the chair has a vote on each application and can participate in the discussion. There is a 20-day appeal period from the date of the decision. Building permits are not available until after the appeal period and if no appeals are received. Lastly, please take down your pink notice signs that were posted on your property to advertise today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The first application is B 3723 ML Kirkwood Commercial Corporation, and that is Ms. Darling.
We're just gonna start the screen sharing process. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Edwards and members of committee. The first application to be heard is consent application B 3723 ML in the name of Kirkwood Commercial Corp. The subject lands are known municipally as 3883 Muskoka Road 118. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 32 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to create a new lot. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 18 days in advance of this meeting, and 3 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, Tim Sobko, the township's public works technician, and Dennis Durango from the Hydro One, all stating no objection to the application. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved, subject to standard conditions of consent. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Darling. And the applicant or applicant's agent wish to speak on this?
Good morning, my name is Ryan Rattray. I can bring the applicant. How about that? Technical issues. Morning. My name is Ryan Rattray. I am the applicant through the corporation Kirkwood Commercial Corp. I think most of the information that's relevant here has been provided already. I can run through the basics. We obviously are seeking to sever this lot. It's a 6-acre parcel. We're attempting to sever off a 2.5-acre parcel with a retained 3.5-acre lot left, which has the existing house and garage on it. I don't believe that the size of the parcel nor the frontage is at issue. The severed parcel would also front onto Muskoka Road 118, which would hopefully be the access point. I would note that there was a prior application on this piece of land in 2006, which was also a consent application to sever along the exact same boundary lines. That consent was granted subject to the standard conditions. My understanding is that the conditions were not fulfilled, and therefore the 2006 application lapsed. The zoning on this parcel is a rural RU2. The Kirkwood Commercial Corp, the company that owns this land, also owns 114 Medora Street, which is the Pie Wood-Fired Pizza restaurant. We purchased the parcel at 3883 to house some of our staff, and I know that the township has identified a very serious need for staff housing. So that's the purpose for which we are using the existing parcel. Our intent with the severed parcel would be to build one more standard residential dwelling just to help with housing the management of the restaurant. Right now, the existing structures house the staff. I did just notice when the screen flashed there of the staff's proposed recommendations, one of them being that we deal with any deficiencies in the existing septic on the retained parcel. I would note that we have already applied for and been granted a permit to replace that septic system, and I believe it's actually work starting today. So if that's a concern, I could address that up front.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, have your name, address, and postal code, thanks.
Sorry, is there a question?
You need your name, address, and postal code.
My name is Ryan Rattray. My address is as on the application, which is 18 Collier Street in Barrie, Ontario. L4M1G6 is the postal code.
Great, thank you. And I will ask, is there anyone else wishing to speak on in support of this application? Anyone against this application? Okay, thank you very much. Are there questions from the members?
I guess it's district road, so I worry, I think it's scenic corridor possibly, and I worry about road signs or anything on. And I don't know, if that's something that we get into or that's separate.
Who'd like to answer that?
Through you, Chair Edwards. Good morning, committee, and thank you for your question, Member Quinn. In this particular instance, the property does, as we know, abut Highway 118 West. It is a district road. The property is not zoned a scenic corridor. So the district hasn't provided us comments in this particular application. But we have included a condition with respect to access. And with respect to signs, Mr. Pink, you may need to assist me here. I'm not sure if the township has a bylaw that would control the posting of a sign on the property. Is that the concern?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, or whether that would fall within the district's jurisdiction because it is their road. Thank you.
Anything else?
Answer that.
If
Thank you. Through you. Unfortunately, I don't know the details, but it is a district road, so there's a district sign by law. I'm not really familiar with it, but staff would have to research that. But they would have to comply with any sign by law.
There is actually currently 2 signs on the property when we acquired it. They are rented out to third parties, so I believe that those are probably district MTO approved. However, we wouldn't be opposed to a condition saying that we wouldn't post any additional signage. We have no need on that property to do any sort of advertising.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Sorry, Chair Edwards. We've received knowledge that the YouTube feed is not working right now. They can't hear anything. Okay, sorry. Please disregard.
okay, thank you. I'll read the resolution. Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Bridgman, and be it resolved, consent be granted for application B 3723 ML Kirkwood Commercial Corporation, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, that a satisfactory register deed and of the separate lot, together with any required right-of-way or easement, be submitted to the township along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that the availability of the entrance permit for the separate lot be confirmed by the Public Works and Engineering Department of the District Municipality of Muskoka. 3, that cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the separate lot or the entire lands, whichever is less. And 4, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied with that the retained and separate lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, that any problems identified with the existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. And 5, that the township, 5, that a satisfactory site plan agreement for the separate lot be entered into and registered on title along with securities for retention of vegetation and planting to maintain the roadside buffer and setback from the creek. Are there any other questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. The next application is B 3823 ML Shortt, and that is Ms. Darling.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is consent application B 3823 ML in the name of Shortt. The subject land are known municipally as 1035 Rosso Lake Road, number 1. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 48 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to create a new lot. The notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 19 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, and Dennis Durango from Hydro One, both stating no objection to the application. Tim Sopko stated that the severance approval should be subject to confirmation from Public Works Department of the availability of an entrance permit for the severed lot. And Sandy Boss, the township's building inspector, stated that the owner should provide a copy of the use permit for the on-site sewage system on the retained lot or have a phase 2 inspection carried out by a certified installer, designer, or inspector. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved, subject to standard conditions of consent. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Darling. And I see as the applicant or applicant's agent wishing to speak on this.
Good morning. Yes, please.
Good morning.
Good morning. Is it okay to speak now?
Yes, it's fine. Go ahead. We need your
Okay,
name and
thank you.
address. Oh,
Excellent. My name is Debbie Vandenacker. I'm a senior planner at Planscape in Bracebridge. It's 104 Kimberley Avenue, P1L 1Z8. We are the applicant's agent for Ken and Gary Shortt. And I completely concur with everything that's in Ms. Darling's report. I think it was well written and thorough. I'm here to and happy to answer any questions the committee may have as well, though. Thank you for your time.
thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this?
The applicant is on Zoom, but
Okay, if they would like to speak, they can come on now. Okay, is there anyone in opposition to this application?
No.
Okay. Are there questions from the members? No. Moved by Member Brown, second by Member Stokes. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 3823 ML Shortt, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, that a satisfactory registrable description deed of the severed lot along together with any right-of-way or easement be submitted to the township along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that the availability of the entrance permit for the severed lot be confirmed by the Public Works Department of the Township of Muskoka Lakes. 3, that cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 2% of the assessed value of the severed lot or the entire lands, whichever is less. And 4, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the retained and severed lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, that any problems identified with the existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. And the next application is A 5323 Edick, and that is Ms. Darling.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 5323 in the name of Edick. The subject lands are known municipally as 1248 Dudley Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 63 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to construct dock additions as shown in the displayed site plan. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 12 days in advance of this meeting, and 3 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, Tim Sobko, the public works technician, both stating no objection to the application. The 3rd comment is a letter of support from Ed and Lori Palmerloo, sorry if I got your name wrong, southerly adjacent neighbors. The proposed variance is summarized as shown. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved, subject to a satisfactory site plan agreement to be entered into and registered on title, along with securities to revegetate the shoreline buffer. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is the agent or applicants here? Okay, bring them on, please.
Yes, Adam Lenny, the permit guy, 35 Covered Bridge Trail, Bracebridge, P1L 1Y1. For you, Chair Edwards. Thank you, committee, for hearing us today. This is just a basic dock extension. The depth of the water currently isn't deep enough to house a boat properly. It sits on the bottom of the shore for most of the summer. We currently do have a building permit for the rebuild of the dock, but now we're just trying to get a bit extra depth there for the dock. We've got letters of support from the neighbors. The homeowners are also there today if there's any further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else wish to speak in support?
Jim Edick, 1484 Jelna Road, Mississauga, L4X 1T7. Just one mention, I spoke to the neighbors on the south side. I got a letter and submitted. I've also spoke to the neighbors on the north side on that and got a letter that they have no concerns about the extension I'm looking for. I currently sit furthest back in the bay as far as that goes. So the addition I'm looking for is strictly for being able to dock a boat on that. And I will also still be set back probably 3 feet from my neighbor's double boathouse side. I just wanted to make that clear as far as that goes.
Great, okay. Thank you very much. You know, it's always nice when you talk to your neighbors and get approval. It makes it so much easier for everyone involved.
One letter.
Yeah.
I just noticed that Kristen had a letter from the neighbor.
Yeah.
There is also a letter on file from the neighbor on the north side. So I've spoken to both, and neither person, I've showed them my building permit that I have and the extension that I'm just asking for.
No, thank you very much. That helps.
Thank you.
Sure. And is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this? Okay, very good. Questions from the members? Yes.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. To you, Ms. Darling, in terms of the revegetation, I'm curious about the sandy beach there. That doesn't look like it may be natural. Is that going to be part of that process?
Through you, Chair, it can be. So we can deal with, they have a lawn in their front yard and the beach. So through the site plan control process, we can work on the front yard area.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Just a quick elaboration on that point. I believe we would need to determine if the beach is a natural feature or aspect of this property. I believe we've reviewed the property and didn't raise any concerns in that regard. However, we did note, as indicated in the picture, that it's quite open. So staff will handle the matter at the time the application is submitted and proceed in the best manner possible, in an appropriate manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Moved by Member Bridgman, second by Member Quinn. Be it resolved that application A 5322 Edick to construct dock additions is hereby approved with the following conditions being granted. One, to permit a minimum side setback of 12 feet at the closest point from the southerly side lot line projection for the dock. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and is subject to the following condition. One, that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title along with securities for revegetation of the shoreline buffer. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And the next application is A 5323, the Ontario Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and that is Ms. Darling.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 5523 in the name of Ontario Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The subject land is known municipally as 1231 Morinus Road, unit number 8. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 75 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to construct a new sun deck as shown in the displayed site plan. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 10 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, and Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, both stating no objection to the application. The proposed variance is summarized as shown. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Darling. And do we have the agent here or the applicant?
Morning, committee members, Mr. Chair. I am Jason Perkins. The address of the Ontario Conference of Seventh-day Adventist Church is located in Oshawa, Ontario, and that is at 1110 King Street East, Oshawa, Ontario, L1H 1H8. The location of the site is called Camp Frenda, and it's on Morinus Road, as was mentioned by Ms. Darling. I am the current new director of the camp. I spent 13 summers up there working as a staff, and my father was camp director from 1990 to 2000. So I'm continuing in his footsteps. The variance application, I believe Ms. Darling was able to get some research from the proposed builder for the deck, and it specifies the amount that we're looking for in the variance. It's not the entire deck, it's just a portion of it because of the line of the shoreline, how it cuts towards the main building, which is our cafeteria. So the purpose of the deck itself is to provide extra seating for basically a sun deck for campers and families that are there throughout the year, just to be able to go out onto the deck and enjoy the shoreline.
Thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Are there questions from the members? Seeing none. Moved by Member Stokes, second by Member Brown. Be it resolved that application A 5523 Ontario Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church to construct a new sun deck is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a minimum front yard setback of 24 feet for a sun deck. This variance is granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. The next application is A 5623 Hall and Rush. That again, Ms. Darling, busy lady today.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 5623 in the names of Hall and Rush. The subject lands are known municipally as 1061 Woodwinds Road, Unit Number 4. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 87 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect for the application is to construct a sports court as shown in the displayed site plan. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 13 days in advance of this meeting, and 3 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, and Tim Sopko. 2 comments have been received to date. Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, and they both state no objection to the application. The proposed variance is summarized as shown. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to a site plan agreement to be entered into and registered on title, along with any necessary securities to address stormwater management and dark sky compliant lighting. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much, Ms. Darling. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here? I see if we have the agent.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee members. My name is Zach Allison, 1615 Beatrice Town Line Road, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L 1X4. Thank you for your time this morning addressing this issue. I'd like to start out by thanking Mr. Sharp and Ms. Darling for their support of this application and making the process really streamlined for us in the application. We've presented a plan that we believe is really respectful of the neighbor's privacy as well as our client's privacy. We've placed the sports court behind the cottage so that it is not at all visible from the lake, and the waterfront is heavily treed. We're also leaving a native tree buffer between the sports court and the cottage, and also between the sports court and the shared common driveway. If there are any questions or concerns at this point, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition to this application? Okay. Are there questions from the members? Yes.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Mr. Pink or Mr. Sharp, can you refresh my memory of why we set 200 feet as the closest that these could be to the shoreline? I just would like a refresher on that if I could, please.
Through you, Chair Edwards, and thank you, Member Bridgman, for your question. I don't believe there is any hard and fast science behind the 200-foot setback requirement. I would note that in our site plan control bylaw, there's it used to be that lands beyond 200 feet weren't subject to site plan control, and there were specific, for example, a garage or sleeping cabin, if it was constructed beyond that setback, it wouldn't be subject to that process. So I believe that may have been why the 200-foot setback was imposed. The intent was, it used to be that a sport court could be constructed as close as 66 feet to the high water mark, which is the regular front yard setback for, a dwelling or a sleeping cabin or what have you. And as we know, a standard size tennis court can be upwards of 7,000 square feet in size in some cases, and they can result in a lot of site alteration, site disturbance. So I think, you know, the intent was obviously to push them back from the high water mark to alleviate, you know, character concerns, site disturbance concerns, and what have you. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is well vegetated. I can see that. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the committee? Seeing none. Moved by member Quinn, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that application A 5623 Holland Rush to construct a sports court is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to remit a minimum setback from the high water mark of 163 feet for a sports court. This variation is granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision and is subject to the following condition. 1, that a site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title along with any necessary securities to address stormwater management and dark sky compliant lighting. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And the next application is A 5723 Shaw, and that is Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. And good morning, members of committee. It's my first application, so figured I should say good morning. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 5723 in the name of Shaw. The subject lands are known municipally as 1321 Carlingford Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 103 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to recognize an as-built sun deck and unenclosed gazebo within the required front yard setbacks and to permit this gazebo to exceed the maximum permitted floor area. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, and Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, both stating no objection to the application. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to the following. Nope, sorry, just that it be approved. I have no further comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? I believe we have the agent.
Good morning, Chair and Committee. Thank you for your time today. I'm Jack Burns of Dakota Group, 3 Armstrong Point Road, Fort Killing, Ontario, P0B1J0. We were involved sort of late on the game on this and just handled the application for the applicant. And I believe the applicant is here today to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is the applicant here wishing to speak on this?
Hello.
Oh,
Yes, Michael Shaw.
okay. Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not that familiar with Zoom.
Okay, no, it's fine. If you can turn your camera on, that's fine. If not, just state what you would like. And that we are listening. Thank you.
I don't think I know how to do that. Anyways, yeah, it's this is an outdoor kitchen that we built during COVID, And it's originally the deck was, I believe we measured it off with the building inspector originally with a tape down to the water line, and it measured, I think, 43 feet. But with the grade, because it's quite elevated, it actually on the planning or on the survey, it actually measures smaller. So it's, I think, 30 something feet. But if you actually take a tape from the deck down to the water line, it's within the 40-foot range. We also built it in an area where it cannot be seen from either the neighbors or the water. It's heavily treed all the way around. We set it as far back on the deck as we possibly could because of the elevation and the granite rock behind it. So we tried to make it as small as we could, but still meet the needs of what we were looking for.
We have your name and postal code for the record.
Yeah, it's Michael Shaw, 1321 Carlingford Road, Manette P0B1G0.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Okay. Are there questions from the members? No questions? Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Quinn. Be it resolved that application A5723 Shaw to recognize an as-built sun deck and unenclosed gazebo is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a minimum front yard setback of 34 feet for an as-built sun deck. 2, permit a minimum front yard setback of 36 feet for an unenclosed gazebo. And 3, to permit a maximum floor area of 265 square feet for an unenclosed gazebo. These variants are granted shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. The next application is A5923 Siegel, and that is Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A5923 in the name of Siegel. The subject lands are known municipally as 1074 Woodington Road, Unit 7. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 119 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to construct an addition to an existing sun deck that encroaches within the required front yard setback. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, and Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Work Technician, both stating no objection to the application. The proposed variance is summarized as shown on the screen. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to the following: that the patio located between the existing dwelling and the lake be removed, and that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for retention of vegetation and plantings to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer, with emphasis on the existing patio envelope. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have the applicant agent here wishing to speak on this.
Yes, thank you, Chair Edwards. My name is Ryan Allen. I'm here today to represent the Siegel family. Address 104 Kimberley Ave, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L1Z8. Thank you, Ms. Crowder, for your introduction. As was explained, there's a proposed deck addition. The existing deck is proposed to be removed, and it's approximately 8 feet wide, slightly narrow, and the owners are proposing to enlarge the deck to provide a bit more space to be usable. The existing deck has a front yard setback from the shoreline of 51 feet. The proposed addition is 8 feet wide, hence the addition and the variance at 7 foot reduction. We appreciate the recommended approval of the application. However, we're opposed to the conditions that require the removal of the patio and its revegetation. I have some photos that I'd like to show of the property from the lake, as well as from some other views as well, if those could be queued up. The conditions specifically are being required to deal with the additional built form associated with the addition to the deck, as well as to revegetate the shoreline. The first 3 photos show the property viewed from the lake. You can't see the existing dwelling behind the existing forested vegetation. There's a 2-story boathouse located in front of the property. Next slide, please. This is a view of the dwelling head-on, as well as the existing boathouse. These photos were just taken on Friday, so you can see the leaf-off conditions. When the leaves are on, there is some more additional visual buffering and screening provided. Next slide, please. This is another view from the side. As you can see or can't see, the existing sun deck is located behind the existing boathouse. Next, please. This is a view from the dock. This summer, the existing patio is located in the front, and the sun deck that's proposed to be enlarged located to the rear. As you'll see, there's some excellent vegetative buffering and visual screening. Next slide, please. This is a photo as well from this fall, looking off of the existing deck. And you'll see that there is existing vegetation that provides visual screening and buffering. In my opinion, the existing vegetation is sufficient to provide visual screening and buffering of the proposed deck addition. The deck addition itself consists of supporting posts, as well as the front face of the deck that is extending closer towards the lake. There's no additional built form or changes to character of the property. The existing patio has been in place, my understanding, for more than 20 years. It's less than 200 square feet in size. This property would be permitted a patio under the township's site alteration and tree conservation bylaws. This is the best location for the patio today, which is the existing location. I don't see the need to undertake additional revegetative plantings in the location of the patio. In my professional opinion, the application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act without the proposed conditions. And I would request that the committee approve the application today without the conditions. Mr. Siegel, the owner of the property, is here today. He would like to say a few words, as well as offer up a potential reduction in the size of the addition in order to maintain his fire pit, as well as to enlarge the existing deck. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen. And would Mr. Siegel like to speak?
Hi, committee. Yeah, my name is David Siegel. I'm speaking on behalf of my mom, Susan Siegel, who's the owner of the property, and just wanted to add some comments. So we just in the process of replacing this there was an old and damaged sun deck that we're looking to extend to allow us some space for a full-size table, as the current deck in its current form is quite narrow. And the requirement to remove the existing stone patio, which is over 20 years old and has a fire pit, would be very difficult for us, as it's an area where we would spend time around a campfire and the only patio on the property. So having to remove that in order to extend the deck would be something that we would have a significant difficulty in doing. We believe the variance has no impact on the neighbors. As you could see from the pictures, there's significant foliage, trees, and a large boathouse in between the cottage and the lake. However, in view of compromising, if the committee does not agree with our comments to keep the stone patio, we'd like to suggest a reasonable compromise and reduce the extension from 8 feet to 4 feet, which would reduce the variance from 7 feet to 3 feet. So in that scenario, we would only be asking for a 3-foot variance for the deck. And happy to answer any questions or concerns about what I just said.
Thank you very much. And is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition? Yes.
We need his address for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could we have your address, please? And postal code?
Is it the home address or the address for the cottage?
Your mailing address that you mail.
Sure. The mailing address is 612 Briar Hill Avenue, Toronto, Ontario, M5N1N2. And that's the address of my mom, Susan, who I'm speaking on behalf of.
Okay. Are there questions from the members? Yes, Member Bridgman.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Ms. Crowder, could you comment on the owner's thoughts of reducing the size of the variance?
Yeah, through you, Chair Edwards, Member Bridgman. So the basis of our recommendation to remove the patio is in light of the fact that the existing sun deck today meets the required setback for a sun deck in the comprehensive zoning bylaw and what the official plan envisions, and that is a setback of 50 feet. The official plan also envisions that between the 50 feet and the shoreline, it's in a completely natural state. So this application is seeking to reduce that setback and to create a non-compliant situation. So we see applications come forward where there's an existing sun deck within the required front yard setback, and it's considered legal non-complying. And the official plan allows some wiggle room there, but for the most part, you have to come forward to committee to seek enlargements. In this case, it's a compliant sun deck that they're applying to bring closer to the waterfront. And the existing dwelling is set back closer to the water than the current zoning bylaw seeks. So we really are looking to have a net improvement over the existing situation. If we're contemplating allowing the sun deck to come closer, the official plan encourages that redevelopment be taken as an opportunity to seek a net improvement. So the existing buffer, staff agree that surrounding the envelope where this opening is, it's a pretty great buffer. However, the patio area is somewhat open. And when I conducted my site visit, I thought that we could achieve a net improvement if that was removed, especially since we're bringing that sun deck closer to the water. But if committee feel that perhaps a reduction in the patio area and we could put some more plantings in that opening, you're certainly welcome to explore that option. But yeah, our recommendation was for the patio to be removed and revegetated. So.
Any other questions or comments at this time? Yes, Sean.
Just a question. As I understand it, in order to revegetate, the patio needs to be removed, or is that incorrect?
Through you, Chair Edwards, that is correct.
So effectively, we're saying either remove the patio and revegetate, or don't remove the patio and don't revegetate. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair Edwards, I believe that is correct. I know that the applicant mentioned an alternative of seeking a smaller sun deck, but I don't think that they have an appetite to remove the sun deck or the patio at all, but I'll allow them to clarify. But I think the question before you is to either remove the patio and revegetate, or you can choose to go against staff's recommendation and permit the variance they've requested with no conditions, or to contemplate this revised proposal of a smaller variance request for the reduced sun deck.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. Are there any other questions or comments or yes, Member Quinn?
I think there's we're looking at the time of year and I think that there's a lot of trees in front of this. And I think there's nice retaining walls. I think if we remove that patio, we probably have more erosion and stuff for a period of time of stuff working towards the water. I would probably support a reduction in the upper deck and keeping the lower patio if that could be talked about or explored further. I'd like to hear about it.
I'd like to get the comments from the committee. Would you like to see the actual deck set back to 47 feet rather than 43 feet, which would shorten it up? And that, what are your thoughts on that? Anyone?
I guess the question is how important, I know that the applicant believes that there's sufficient vegetative buffer. How important does staff and the committee believe additional vegetative buffer is in this instance? That to me seems to be the question. Maybe I've got that incorrect.
Okay, thank you. Member Bridgman?
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I would prefer having the applicant build their bigger deck and remove that patio. I have been past this property and I think it's quite exposed actually in the summer in that one. When you look at it from head on to the official plan requirements of planning, it is quite exposed in my humble opinion. So I would support what staff is recommending here.
Anyone else wishing to comment on this? So you good?
Chair Edwards, I can share a photo that I think shows sort of where our recommendation was coming from, if that would be helpful. Okay, let me just screen share. Okay, so this is figure 2 from the staff report. I do have some photos of the patio as well. And you know, there's a significant, maybe I can, no, I can't highlight it, but you know, with the staircases and the patio area, there is an opening, particularly right in front of the sun deck, which is where they are proposing that the front yard setback be reduced. The photos, I think when you're on the lake looking at the property when from an angle where the boathouse is sort of covering that opening, it may not look as open, but from this side and really anywhere to the west, if my directions are right here, you will see a significant opening. So, you know, staff's preference is that this be revegetated. You know, we have quite a few proposals come forward where we recommend the same. So to be consistent, you know, and in light of the variance before us, that would be my preference. But you know what, it is with committee. So if I think there's sort of 3 options before you. One is to follow staff's recommendation. One is to permit the sun deck without revegetation, and then potentially the reduced sun deck proposal.
Mr. Sharp.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Thank you, Ms. Crowder. Just one thing I guess I would clarify is I do appreciate that the applicant and their agent have come forward to seek a compromise between staff's recommendation and I guess I would just look to perhaps the applicant and the agent, or would suggest that perhaps committee look to the applicant and the agent to determine whether with the reduction in the size of the sun deck, if there'd be the opportunity to do some plantings in the area in front. In other words, the area that would be otherwise occupied by the proposed sun deck. I believe it would open up that area by about 4 feet, give or take, and there may be some opportunities to do some plantings within that area, and that may be a good solution that you want to explore. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. I will ask the applicant then if the new sun deck was pushed back that 4 feet and plantings could go in there, would you be agreeable with that?
I'm not exactly sure where the plantings would go. Just is the committee still recommending that we remove this large stone patio in order to accomplish those plantings? I'm not sure how that could work without removing the patio. That's the only concern.
Maybe Mr. Sharp can re-explain that and say that the plantings would go in with the 4 feet in front where you're moving the deck back. I believe that was my understanding, Mr. Sharp.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I believe Ms. Crowder is going to screen share a photo that may be helpful for committee. Go ahead, Ms. Crowder.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Edwards, on the screen, you'll see a photo from the site visit. The existing sun deck is proposed to come closer to the shoreline. There is an area there that looks to be possible of accommodating some plantings. So I think that what the idea is here is that maybe we can put some plantings in this area. There's some shrubs there. Perhaps we could put some tree plantings in to create a more visual buffer. I think that is the idea, but I see that Mr. Allen has his hand raised, the agent.
Okay, can we go back to the screen? Yes, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Chair Edwards, and thank you, Ms. Crowder, for sharing that photo. I think one of the important things to note about that photo in particular is that there's an 8-foot addition that's proposed off the front face of that existing deck. So that kind of open area directly in front of that deck wouldn't be suitable for plantings because it's in the location of the proposed addition. And I think when you heard from Mr. Siegel's confusion about where plantings would be located, it's because with the exception of the patio and this open area that's immediately in front of the existing deck, there are no other locations for plantings on this property that are easy to get to and would have any real benefit in terms of adding additional vegetation. But saying that, if the committee would move the application forward, either with the 8-foot addition or the 4-foot addition as Mr. Siegel has presented, entering into a site plan agreement to try to find some plantings somewhere and locations on the property to enhance the buffer. If that gets us past the finish line today, I think we would be happy with that.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Sharp.
Through you, Chair Edwards, appreciate the suggestion of the reduction in the size of the deck, a 4-foot reduction. I guess I'm just questioning, would that not then open up an area for plantings?
Well, I think so, and with if passive with the reduction, the 4-foot reduction, and we have site plan agreement, then you can work that out with the applicant, can you not? So I think, and that, so would you be supportive of a reduction? So now we would be 47 feet and a 3-foot.
It seems like a reasonable compromise. I would suggest, again, looking to the applicant to confirm if there'd be the opportunity within that area for plantings, perhaps a slight further reduction if it's not possible to allow for that. Perhaps that's something you want to explore. Thank you.
May I say one more thing? Sorry. Is there a potential for making the extension even smaller if it would involve not having to do replantings. My only concern is I'm just not sure where the plantings would exactly go, and I wouldn't want it to interfere with the patio that's currently there. That's just my only concern.
I believe what planning staff was saying is you could keep the patio and do the plantings with in the reduction, even if you had to put a little bit of a wall and soil in there for plantings, something along that with site plan agreement. Is that right, Mr. Sharp?
I think so, and I can appreciate that the applicant's not a landscape architect, nor am I. But I think, you know, with some type of reduction in the setback, that would be, like I said, a good compromise. The other alternative for committee would be to defer this matter and staff go to the drawing board with the applicant, their agent, to confirm where exactly plantings could go and the size of the reduction in order to accommodate them. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask the applicant, would you like this deferred? You can further discuss it with staff.
I apologize. I'm not exactly familiar with how this works. So if I don't agree to the deferral, then what is the other option? Sorry, I'm just not familiar with the process. Maybe Ryan.
Yes, Mr. Allen, would you like to?
Chair Edwards, if I could jump in, I don't think that there's a need to defer the application today. I think that the committee could reach a decision. You've heard from Mr. Siegel a reduction from an 8-foot wide addition to a 4-foot wide addition. I've suggested a requirement for a site plan agreement to consider plantings in front of that reduced width addition. I think that there's going to be a requirement for a site plan agreement regardless of what option we're going down, whether it's the removal of the patio at the existing 8-foot addition, whether it's approval at the 8-foot addition, maintaining the patio, reducing to 4-foot addition and keeping the patio and finding some other locations for plantings. I think that option C is the preferred option in my opinion. And that would be the option that I think the committee should decide on today.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Okay, I just want to make sure I've got this straight in my own mind here. Okay, I think what I see is a reduction in the sun deck, and then the plantings would be in front of where that sun deck is. This may be helpful for the applicant to understand that. We're not touching the patio area, I understand at this point. Am I correct? Yes. But I would like to see trees in that area, and that will help buffer because it is quite visible from the structure is visible from the shoreline. So if we can put trees in where that is going out, I think that would be very helpful. So I would be very supportive of that. And I believe that's what Mr. Allen was suggesting.
Okay, so are we in agreement? And that, how many would like to see it reduced? So the minimum front yard setback would be 47 feet rather than 43 feet. Okay. You want to change that, Mr. Sharp, so that it's done?
Is it?
That's there, I think, just so we get it right. So it's.
May I make one comment again? Please?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
And again, I appreciate the comments of the chairwoman. I think I've looked at the property. I do feel that there is significant foliage, significant trees from, you know, when you're on the lake driving by. Is there any interest if we just extend it by another 3 feet, where that would be only a 2-foot variance? Because our intent is just to be able to have a dining table on this very narrow patio. We really, sorry, on this deck, we really don't want to have to enter into agreements with plantings and stuff due to the fact that there's significant trees and foliage and on our property. And our only intent is just to have a slight increase in the size of this deck without making any major alterations to our property. And I just respectfully would, maybe an additional 3 feet would be able to accomplish that, which would only result in a 2-foot variance from the committee. Would that be acceptable for the committee to allow?
I'm gonna ask staff because they've been on site at 2 feet, but you'd still want some plantings there regardless.
I think through you, Chair Edwards, I think given the policies we have in the official plan and the comprehensive zoning bylaw, really this sun deck already is as close as it is envisioned to be. So to extend it any further and to be consistent with the recommendations we make elsewhere, I really do feel like this property should be subject to the same process as every other one, and that planting should be implemented as part of this process.
So, Mr. Siegel, you heard that. There's
How
going to be.
how many plantings are just out of
Well,
curiosity?
that'll be determined with the site plan agreement.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, you can read it then.
Okay, so I'm just going to read the amended resolution, moved by member Brown, seconded by member Bridgman. Be it resolved that application A-59/23 Seagull to construct an addition to an existing sun deck is hereby approved with the following variance being granted: to permit a minimum front yard setback of 47 feet for a sun deck addition. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and is subject to the following condition: that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for retention of vegetation and plantings to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer, with emphasis on the area in front of the proposed sun deck. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision.
You've heard the resolution. All those in favor? That is carried.
Thank you, committee. Have a good day.
Thank you.
And the next application is A-6023 Snyder. And that is Ms. Crowder.
Okay, thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-6023 in the name of Snyder. The subject lands are known municipally as 1310 Camel Lake Road, unit number 9. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 132 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to construct a new dwelling and a private on-site sewage disposal system in slightly different envelopes than those approved through bylaw 2020-87. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Sandy Boss, the township septic inspector, stating that the proposed envelope for on-site sewage disposal is not suitable due to a bedrock outcrop. However, there seems to be alternative suitable locations on the property. Comments were also received from Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, stating that the proposed access, if via a private road, these roads are not required to be constructed or maintained in accordance with township road standards. The Public Works Department does not review this type of access, and road access for emergency services may be limited and/or unavailable via the proposed road access. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to the following: that an updated site plan be provided indicating a satisfactory envelope for a private on-site sewage disposal system within the waterfront residential WR1-7 zoned portion of the subject property in consultation with the township's Planning and Development Services divisions. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. And we have the applicant and the applicant's agent here. Which one would like to speak?
Good morning, Chair Edwards and committee. My name is Jamie Higgins. I am the agent for the applicants, Dave and Amy Snyder. My address is 11 Hendrick Avenue, Toronto, M6G 3S3. We are satisfied with the staff's report. And my clients have retained a septic consultant, and we are happy to provide an updated proposal for the on-site sewage disposal system in a more satisfactory location. And I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the application.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application? Would the owner like to speak?
Sorry, the owners are actually watching via YouTube link, so they are not able to speak at the moment.
They're just watching, they don't want to comment?
Correct, yes. We've spoke before, and everything that I've relayed is their feelings as well.
Is there anyone else you're wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Okay. Questions from the members? Yes.
Thanks, Chair. I'll just keep my streak going here. Yeah. Just a question. Do we need Riverstone to, I mean, I saw from what I read that these weren't supposed to be set in stone when they were passed before. Do we need Riverstone to acknowledge that on this piece of property too, or not?
Through you, Chair Edwards, to Member Bridgman. We don't believe so. The original letter provided, there was a similar application a couple doors down, and that letter provided some general information about the lots, not necessarily that specific one. So, provided the recommendations of the AS are followed, we don't think that we need that.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Stokes.
Yeah, just a question more for staff, I suppose. The recommendation is for approval subject to that condition. I just note that on page 126 of the materials, excuse me, it says, should committee be considering adjournment of the application alternatively to conditional approval? What I guess fundamentally what I'm asking is, what would be the difference, or what would be the rationale between adjourning it or approving it with a condition?
Yes, Ms. Crowder.
Through you, Chair Edwards, to Member Stokes. It's really more a question of committee's comfort and comfortability in approving the application without seeing the exact septic envelope. The envelope that was proposed and is shown that you're able to see today, our septic inspector has said won't work, but the septic inspector did draw up an alternative location that he thinks will work. So it's more so, does committee want to have this adjourned and come back so you can see that specific envelope? Or are you comfortable with staff sort of, monitoring that and making sure that it's put in an appropriate location?
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Moved by member Bridgman, second by member Quinn. Be it resolved that application A 6023 Schneider to construct a new dwelling and a private on-site sewage disposal system is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a dwelling and a private on-site sewage disposal system to be constructed / installed in a different development envelopes than those identified on Schedule 6 of Bylaw 2020-87. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and is subject to the following condition. 1, that an updated site plan be approved indicating a satisfactory envelope for a private on-site sewage disposal system within the waterfront residential zoned portion of the subject property and in consultation with the town's planning and development services division. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. I think at this time we'll take a 10-minute comfort break. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. And the next application is A 6123 shipper, and that is Ms. Darling.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 6123 in the name of shipper. The subject land is known municipally as 1113 Gulf Avenue Road, unit number 5. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on pages 150 through 154 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to demolish an existing 2-story boathouse and construct a new 2-story boathouse as shown on the displayed site plan. Bylaw 2021-206 was approved by council in August of 2022 to permit a 2-story boathouse at 18.5 feet in height. The applicant wishes to increase the height of the approved boathouse to 20.5 feet, and no changes are proposed to the boathouse location that was approved in that bylaw. But please note that the existing boathouse had a height of 17.5 feet. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 10 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, stating no objection to the application. And Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, stated that the existing private road has not been reviewed by Public Works, and road access for emergency services may be limited and or unavailable via the proposed road access. The 3rd and 4th submissions are letters of support for area neighbors Heidi Henshaw and John McDonald. And a letter from the owner was submitted, and he wanted me to read this paragraph. And it states that under the current 18.5 maximum height limitation, we are limited to substandard low ceiling heights on the 1st floor, which are as low as 7 feet 6 inches in some areas, and the 2nd floor living area 7 feet 9.75 inches throughout. We are requesting an increase in the maximum building height by 2 feet from 18.5 to 20.5. The additional height is sufficient to allow us to have 8-foot ceilings in the 1st story and 9-foot ceilings in the living space in the 2nd story, which we believe to be the low end of contemporary building standards. The proposed variance is summarized as shown on the screen. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Darling. And the applicant agent here wishing to speak on this?
Hi.
Okay.
Yes, my name is Stuart Shipper. I'm applying on behalf of my wife, Jane Shipper, who's the owner of the property. And I want to thank Kristen Darling for her help with getting our application prepared, and thank the staff for their favorable recommendation. In light of the recommendation, I'm not sure that I have any other comments. I'm available to answer any questions.
And we need your name and address and postal code, please.
Yes, Stuart Shipper, STUARTSCHIPPER, 56 Hillhurst Boulevard, Toronto, M5N 1N6.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here wish to speak in support of this application? Anyone against this application? Questions from the members? Seeing none. Moved by member Stokes, second by member Green. Be it resolved that application A 6123 shipper to demolish an existing 2-story boathouse and construct a new 2-story boathouse is hereby approved, with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a maximum height for a 2-story boathouse to be 20.5 feet. This variance is granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you very much.
And now we go to unfinished business. That is A 4622 Bornhold, and that is Ms. Darling.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Minor variance application A 4622 in the name of Bornhold is returning to the Committee of Adjustment meeting, is returning from the Committee of Adjustment meeting in October of 2022. The subject land is known municipally as 1107 Bruce Lake Drive, unit number 5. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 166 through 168 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to demolish an existing dock and proposes to construct a new swim dock as shown in the displayed site plan. 3 letters of objection have been received since the original hearing date from Sandy. I'm going to apologize in advance if I say anyone's name wrong. Sandy Mikulaki, Nicole Sprite, and Milan Kovic and Rob Mikulaki. Those letters have been submitted to committee prior to today's hearing. And 1 letter of objection was submitted this morning from Michael and John Mazzorato, and they have 3 concerns about the proposal, and they're summarized as the proposed dock is too large for the undersized lot located in the small bay. The owner currently has a large wakeboarding boat and can dock it currently, so the water depths are not a concern. And his last concern is that the dock bubbler, the size of the dock bubbler that is necessary for this larger dock will create a wide stretch of open water and thin ice in a small bay. I'm able to read that letter if committee wishes. The proposed variance is summarized as shown and has not been changed since the original circulation in October of 2022. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to a satisfactory site plan amendment be entered into and registered on title along with securities for retention of vegetation and plantings to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer and to implement the recommendations in the scoped environmental impact study dated September 15th, 2023, prepared by Beacon Environmental. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Darling. And the applicant or applicant's agent wishing to speak on this. Yes, no, because they can't hear you. Yeah.
All right. Good morning, Chair and committee members. I'm Christy Hamilton of MPS Engineering and Design Services, PO Box 232, Nobel, Ontario, P0G1G0. I'm here on behalf of the Bornholds, which are present as well. As mentioned in staff report, we have obtained the environmental assessment and there was no issues with fish habitat there. There were some recommendations and we have no problem following those. As we already had planned, it met those recommendations. The owners have spoken to some of the neighbors per the recommendation of the previous committee, which I'm not sure if any of you are on it or not, but and some of them were fine. Unfortunately, due to previous bylaw infraction issues by an immediate neighbor, there have been tensions with a few of my clients' neighbors, which have resulted in a situation of non-discussions, no communication. Luckily, some of their concerns have been addressed in the staff report, in the present report from the previous comments. The difference between the existing floating dock and the proposed steel pile dock is 11.1 feet in length and 3.5 feet in width. This bay is fairly shallow, so the additional dock length is to help get the boat parked further back If you've seen in the environmental study, there's pictures of some debris, obviously some fish spawning areas at different times. And we're just trying to keep away from that kind of stuff. So if we get the extension of what's existing, then we'd be further away from all that stuff. My client is very willing to amend a site plan agreement to include revegetation and whatever the funds that are required for it and all that. They've already actually began planting trees and vegetation as part of what was recommended in the last committee, them commenting that they'd like to see some vegetation. So he's already taken steps to hire a landscaper and get some of that done. This fall, 7 new evergreens, 6 pine saplings, and a whole bunch of ferns were planted. And obviously, whatever staff recommends, then we'll be doing some more planting. That's fine. They had future plans to plant more next year, so this will just be part of their plan. I'm here to answer any of your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak on this application in support? Anyone in support? Okay. Is there anyone in opposition to this application?
Can you hear me? Excellent. Good morning, Chair Edwards and members of the Committee of Adjustment. My name is Milan Kovac, and I reside at 21 Zealand Road in Toronto, M9R 3 William 5. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to this matter at this proceeding. When is a minor variance not a minor variance? When it is a minor variance with major negative impacts on others and the surrounding environment. This is the case with the Bornhold application for this party dock. This proposed dock, measuring 14 feet by 50 feet, total area 700 square feet, is clearly non-compliant based on the lot size of the Bornhold property and would be too large relative to the size of our small bay. It is not a small deviation from current zoning bylaws. Applicant Bornhold's current dock seems adequate and has been used for a number of years to dock his large ski boat and keep his loungers, his chairs, water toys, and other such things on hand for their use. The size can obviously be increased to what is allowed under the bylaws currently based on the lot size. No one has any objection to that. Therefore, not granting this application would not cause applicant Bornhold to suffer any hardship, as he really does not need the relief. He has a dock currently, and he can increase the size to what is allowed for his personal enjoyment of the lake, his personal enjoyment. I would ask the committee to factor this into its decision. A large dock for personal enjoyment is totally unnecessary unless it is intended to enhance the experience of large groups of renters. This has been our experience. And this would only exacerbate the excessive noise and light pollution concerns that have been experienced and that have been documented, obviously, last year and currently for the submissions that you have received in the last few days. In addition, as mentioned by the Mazzarotos, a large steel pile dock will require a bubbler system with safety concerns such as open water and thinner ice in our small bay. And in fact, there is a Muskoka Lakes water allowance tract of property just on the other side of the small bay from the Bornhold property that is used by contractors, snowmobilers, and others using the lake in the winter. And I would ask you to obviously give that serious consideration. So after the decision on the minor variance application was adjourned by this committee on October 11th of last year, the committee made 3 recommendations to applicant Bornhold. 1, that the length of the proposed dock be reduced. 2, that he engage concerned neighbors and address their concerns. And 3, that an environmental impact study EIS be submitted to address potential impacts to fish habitat. Applicant Bornhold chose to ignore 2 of the 3 recommendations. So he did not reduce the length of the proposed dock, nor did he engage with his immediate neighbors. He did have conversations with some neighbors regarding the environmental impact study. Perhaps he can provide us with details on who these neighbors were, when he spoke to them, and the outcomes from these non-recommended engagements. As there was nothing else provided in the staff report that I read. This shows a clear lack of respect both for the committee and for the process involved here. As for the environmental impact study, I'm sure Beacon Environmental is a reputable firm with qualified professionals and so forth. However, in 40+ years of adult life, it is my experience that if you are paying for it, you can have people write and say things that are favorable to your position. It is also important to note the following. On October 11th of last year, applicant Bornhold lied when he informed the committee that the cottage would no longer be rented.
Excuse me, just no, and not talking about that, just be very, very careful.
Okay, fair enough. Then let me rephrase. So applicant Bornhold informed the committee that the cottage would no longer be rented, and that appears not to be the case. On the same date, applicant Bornhold was advised that the expansive stone patio along his lakefront he had not received approval for, and it would need to be removed. Lastly, over some years, promises by our self-professed tree hugger, applicant Bornhold, planting trees and shrubs for the privacy and noise buffering, these have gone largely unfulfilled. And that has been mentioned in some of the other submissions. Clearly, there is a pattern of behavior that should be obvious to everyone, and this conduct should not be accepted, tolerated,
Somehow I've lost the sound. I don't know why.
Fair enough.
Oh.
All right. Applicant Bornhold has neither had consideration or regard for his immediate neighbors and the surrounding environment, nor for this committee and its recommendations. Without respect and trust, it is impossible to have faith in anything a person says or the promises that they make. It is within the power of this committee to send the appropriate message and do the right thing for the greater good here. And I respectfully ask the committee to deny this minor variance application. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Other questions from the members? Okay.
I guess we got a brief overview of what some of the other concerned neighbors were. I would just wonder if there's any or many more points that we should hear of concerns of theirs before we go further.
Through you, Chair. A lot of the concerns that were brought forward for this agenda were very similar to the original report. I believe that committee was sent the 3 emails that I received from the 3 neighbors. The letter that I received from the one neighbor is very similar to the others. I can send it if people, or I can read it out in full if you would prefer that. But a lot of their concerns are summarized together.
Member Quinn, would you like that last letter read?
I think we should hear, if they're very similar, I think we should hear one of the 3
Yeah,
and,
okay, thank you.
it'll give us a little more, color to the situation.
Through you, Chair. I'm just gonna let it load. Okay. So the letter that you didn't receive would be from Michael and John Mazzarato, and their email reads, "We would like to express our opposition to this minor variance for construction of a new dock for the following reasons. The proposed dock is too large for this undersized lot located in this small bay. The property has been a short-term rental for several years and has been the source of numerous instances of both excessive noise and excessive outdoor lighting. The proposed huge dock will only exacerbate these ongoing problems. The property owner currently owns a large wakeboard boat and appears to have no difficulty docking at the existing much smaller dock. In other words, such a large dock is certainly not necessary to access deep enough water for the boat." And the last is, "Our biggest concern is that this proposed large dock built on steel pilings will most likely have a dock bubbler / agitator in the winter. The bubbler / agitator needed for such a large dock will create a wide stretch of open water and thin ice in this small bay. This would create a dangerous hazard as there is a public access directly across the bay from the applicant's property that is used by snowmobilers and contractors in the winter. It would become very unsafe with thin ice and open water created by such a large dock so close to the access. And then thank you for the opportunity to comment." And then I did receive an extended letter that they went more in depth into what they emailed me, and I can obviously read that if you'd like, but it's just an expansion of what they've already said.
Would you like that read as well? Okay. Okay. Member Bridge, go ahead. Oh, okay, Member Stokes.
Yeah, I just, I guess my concerns and comments have been mirrored in some of the letters and the comments that were made earlier by the neighbors. But I guess fundamentally, as we know, in 2022, the previous committee requested that the length be reduced, that the impact EIS study be done, and that plantings be made, etc. On what basis would this committee amend that decision? Because only one of those recommendations has actually been fulfilled by the homeowner. I have to say that I am concerned about the owner's apparent lack of concern for the concern of the neighbors, and also for the recommendation of the prior committee, which I was not a part. And then just one other comment that was, I believe, addressed in the statements from the neighbor earlier today. In the last recommendation by staff back in 2022, it did say that the renaturalization of the shoreline buffer may include a reduction in the size of the patio. I think the individual who spoke earlier today suggested a removal of that patio, which I'm not 100% sure if that's what he said, but it does sound like that's something that should be brought back onto the table with regard to doing those plantings. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. In terms of planning, I believe the only thing in front of us is the fact it's a 95-foot lot instead of a 100-foot lot. I am correct on that. So I have great sympathy for all of the other comments that have come out here in terms of the neighbors being upset with the noise level and the renting and whatever. The avenue, and that's the problem with governments and regulations, the avenue to deal with that is through the council, I believe now is looking at a short-term rental bylaw. And I would suggest that you contact your counselors and explain to them